Hello everyone, my name is Boulevard, and welcome back to another VOD review. A couple of housekeeping notes before we jump into the actual review. Number one being that this is going to be a two-parter. This is a very long series because we are in, I guess, playoffs. I don't really know the format of Aegis. It's not super important. The thing that is important is that this is like a 3-hour set. So I'm going to break this into two parts, partially because it's going to be very long and no one wants to watch a 3-hour YouTube video, partially because we're in the eternal format waiting room, and so I need to milk content for everything that it's worth. Number two is last week you might have looked at the lack of uploads and been like, oh shit, dude, I knew Boulevard couldn't keep this up, and I just want to say, because I said this on Twitter, but I didn't say it on YouTube. Last week I was working on a collaborative content piece with some other creators. I don't have a timeline on when you're going to get to see it. It could be a couple of weeks, it could be a month, it could be more, it could actually just fall through entirely for all I know, but I wasn't doing nothing. You won't be able to miss it when it comes out. Number three, I'm actually just going to skip flying the deck lists before we get into this, because at this stage of the game, we're so late in. You know what these decks look like, right? If anything relevant comes up in the deck lists, I will throw it up on screen mid-game. So with that said, we might as well jump into it. Sorry, I'm like reminding myself of the Epic Pen hotkeys. So we've got Tank from Mastering Runterra Tryhards up against Vengevine from Targon's Valley. I believe we've spectated Targon's Valley before in one of their collaborative sets. I also don't have the advantage bar up. That is intentional. I just feel like I was forgetting to use it a lot, and it didn't really seem like anyone was getting use out of it. It says one player's already been eliminated. Did they, like... This is the start of the stream. No, it's not. Oh, there was a set before this, but it came in halfway through. Okay, so... Yeah, I guess they had some kind of stream issue based on how the thumbnail loads out. So we're going to ignore that. But it does look like they're already down a man. Yeah, it's remaining players, so they are down a person. Unfortunate. So we've got a solid lead already, at least like match-wise on the side of Mastering Runterra Tryhards. Game-wise, Kai'Sa is supposed to do very well into Bandle Gunners, but Kai'Sa is a big part of that. That said, like... You've got the Cataclysm, you've got the Merciless Hunter. These tools aren't coming down fast enough, though, and as you can see here, like, it's a little awkward. We're almost kind of, like, forced into an open attack so that you can kind of deny the mare value. But at the same time, it's this kind of weird dichotomy, right? Because you know that there's no insane mare value that, like, your opponent's really going to get off of 4 mana, right? Usually it's like reducing something from 4 mana to 3 is the big value that you get off of mare, and then you can throw something else down alongside it. That's not really the case here, but banking that extra spell mana is important, and now losing the one challenger that you had to the Owlcat, very, very awkward for Targon's Valley, and I guess I might as well just say player name, so awkward for Vengevine. Still not finding Kai'Sa. The Barrier Scout, really not what you want to be seeing in a matchup like this. You kind of just need to control the board with your Cataclysm, stat check them. So, like, here you'd want to see, like, Merciless Hunter be able to take this out. You want to see Cataclysm be able to take this out. Stuff like that. But it is, you know, a question of, like, how much value can you actually get while playing greedy? For example, like, Merciless Hunter onto this is greedy, right? Like, you need to deal with the mare. It's not something that you can let sit on board for a while. But we actually do get the Void Blaster. So I don't mind this either, because there's no Kai'Sa in the hand of Vengevine. They don't really have the option to play that control style gameplay that I was just highlighting. So instead, they might feel like they need to go for a race. Unfortunately for Vengevine, that's going to be completely stopped by a Blastcone Seedling and a Tristana, but I don't hate the initiative from Vengevine here. Looking at the board state, evaluating, saying, hey, I'm really not able to play the traditional way that Kai'Sa wins this matchup. I have to play the actual hand that I have, and unfortunately the hand that I have, not particularly well suited for this scenario, and does just kind of get big punished here. But I think it was a smart play from Vengevine. I don't think Cataclysming and Merciless Hunting and trying to pick apart the board was a winning strategy. You still would have ended up losing to this Tristana. But throwing down the Void Blaster does leave them in this awkward scenario of not having the Cataclysm mana when they need it. Tank's going to throw out an attack. Looking at how the blocks line up here, you have to be cognizant of... Let me check, because I think it's 2 single combat, 3 form up, a chain vest is what Tank has to be thinking about in this particular scenario. Quicksand's off the table, but is in the deck. So, like, these two are never attacking. It's really just a question of, do you send this in? If you do, it gets chumped here. This probably goes here, unless you want to push damage onto Tristana, but I think it would just be like this here, and then this here. Can you take that? That's like 13. Because now, with the way the attack's actually lined up, not going in with the tenor himself, and that's if you want to go for max board control, which I don't think Vengevine can do. Like I mentioned, has already kind of switched gears, doesn't have the hand to play full control. So even if the tenor had gone in, it's probably still this and this. Or it probably would have been this and then this, and then you're taking like 6. Tank might have been able to go a little harder, but I also don't think that Tank is in a position where they have to. Now we'll see how it goes with the Kai'Sa top deck, with Cataclysm mana, with Evolution. The problem, Kai'Sa can't get a lot of keywords. You can grab Scout, which is an important one, but I think more than specific keywords, you just want like as many keywords as possible so that you can get maximum value out of a Cathian Rain. That said, the Scout is going to help you with the race that you kind of forced yourself into. Or rather, not forced yourself into, but like committed to. You could also like Tough Weapon here and then get Tough Scout, but that doesn't really do as much for you as Cataclysming this turn, because I think you are, you know, super inclined to take out this Tristana and not let your opponent go to an open attack with that. That said, the pass from Vengevine isn't the worst pass I've ever seen in my life, but there's no reason to do it, right? You're kind of in this situation where you know that if you go for an attack, your opponent has a chance to, like, refill with some of the cards in hand, and then you're in this awkward scenario where, like, if you attack with Kai'Sa, and this blocks it, and also it dies to the Acathian Rain, then a Bandle Gunner comes down, and all of a sudden, like, you are just in a worse position than you were previously. So I think this is, like, just a really unfortunate scenario for Vengevine. I'm really curious to see how they do handle it. I think you might as well go for the Scout attack still, because then if a Bandle Gunner does come down to replace this, then you can just, like, Cataclysm into the Tristana. Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, if you're, like, don't play the tough weapon after you took the keywords, but that's exactly what we're doing. It's not like this helps you play around prize fight at all, because there is a 10 attack Tristana. So this weapon equip after the Scout, it's like the extra health on this Kai'Sa does not feel like it matters to me. I don't know why Tank... Oh, just wanted the weapon. Okay, that makes sense. I was going to say, I don't know why Tank blocked with that instead of the 4-1, but getting the weapon off the unit makes sense. So it's just like a block here, maybe a trade here. Looking like they're really prioritizing the health totals. Kai'Sa doesn't have Overwhelm, but obviously you are cognizant of the Cataclysm Rally, which is sort of the bigger part here. Open attack with Tristana. Like, I feel like you just kind of really need to get this guy out of the way so that your Tristana attack actually matters. Like, I like blocking Kai'Sa. I like blocking this. And then... But I also kind of like blocking this. But right now, Tank's doing math that I'm not doing on whether or not this 2 impact is going to be relevant to lethal. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause. And actually, I want to wait to see if... Okay, now that Tank has locked that in, let me run some math here real quick. So if you do, you know, like, move the mayor over here, block this here, right? Whatever. You don't have a multi-region follower in hand to get down to reduce the cost of the Bandle Gunners, so the next turn is probably not even a Bandle Gunner, you're probably Bandle Gunnering post-combat playing King's Court, and we're shipping as much Tristana impact as possible. So you're going to go in for the full attack, but once you develop King's Court, you open yourself up to the Cataclysm, which if that comes onto Tristana, you're in a really bad spot as tank. But, with the way this plays out, I don't know. I think I would have liked to see getting this unit off the board if the plan is to develop King's Court. And I think if you're holding this, it is because your plan is to develop King's Court and try to push lethal with it'd be 8 impact from Tristana, 3 from the Gunner, and 2 from this. So we're looking for exact lethal on the side of tank with these blocks. It's fragile. It's very fragile. But I guess just with the Scout Kaisa developed, tank no longer feels like this is a race that they have any chance of winning. But they're conceding to so many cards here. And I wonder if it's just a read from tank that with the weapon equip coming down, Vengevine didn't have Cataclysm. Because Vengevine could have gone for like a full out attack and then Cataclysmed the Tristana to scout attack and rally. Tank going Bandle Gunner instead of King's Court is still lethal with the Bandle Commando. But again, like it's not. I don't think the King's Court line is really beating anything that the second Gunner Commando line wasn't beating. But now you're just dead. These get blocked. These swing and you die. Okay. Yeah, I think it was just like... I don't know if tank could have done anything. Is there a way to play around Cataclysm from that position? It feels like the answer is no, but the whole point of a VOD review is I get a double check. You know, just kind of sitting here looking at it, the answer is just no. Like I was about to start running calculations, but you just kind of like look at the problem as a whole. You take a step back, look at the problem as a whole, and it's like, no, there's no way to deal with that. Especially with the Rite of Negation, being able to stop an open attack lethal with like prize fight. Like Vengevine just had all their bases covered as soon as they did end up drawing that Kaisa. Little unfortunate for tank, but that's kind of what you expect out of the matchup. Oh boy, a mirror match. Man, I am a little excited for Eternal to just not have mirror matches. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of Eternal VOD reviews on like any Eternal format tournament footage that I can get my hand on. So like if you're like a BR player, Yang Zera, if you're listening and you end up like playing a BR only Eternal format, if you could send me your VOD from that event, be greatly appreciated, my friend. Or any other BR player. Named BR player. If you're a fucking random, stay out of my inbox. I'm just playing with you. Like I said, I will take what I can get. Obviously, this is like a full-on mirror match. They're both Bilgewater. I don't think there's any differences in the builds worth mentioning. One of them plays Teemo. One of them plays Piltover Castaway. But you have Wandering Shepherd for weapon access anyway. One of them plays Heavy Metal. Yeah, it's not like... Not a lot. There's a little bit, but there's not a lot. Nothing like interesting. So the fact that they both have double Mare means we just kind of get a super passive early game. And the question is going to be who's got the better payoff. Tenor plus Furious is a good start for Vengevine. Tank... Yeah, Shark Trainer's cool. And you do have Token on 5. Honestly, I think you just kind of need to take Shark Trainer to get that 6/6 value. And Vengevine... Is it worth trying to kill mares here? It really depends on your read, right? Because, like, Once this all resolves, Vengevine can still throw down a Wandering Shepherd and then use, like, Pie Fight. Pie Fight? Well, yeah, actually. I mean, it's Pie Toss and Prize Fight, so yeah, we'll call it Pie Fight. They can Pie Fight one of the mares. The problem is... I don't really feel... Okay, no, yeah, I was going to say, I don't feel like you can actually afford to, like, Pie Fight mares. I think that these decks are so light in the actual specific threats that they have. You know, I was using this blue color, and I'm just now realizing that it is actually the exact same shade of blue that they use for the hand border. So I am going to switch to... I think I'm going to switch back to the pink, just for sake of clarity. I don't want it to blend in. It's very obvious. Yeah, okay. What I was saying is that I don't think you can really afford to be using Pie Fights on mares because this is just the engine, and this deck has so few threats. It's really just like Tristana, Gnar, and Bandlegunner, and of course this guy. And then, like, if there's a big mare pool, sure. But I don't think you are ever Pie Fighting trying to deny that. Like, it's so hard to play against the RNG breakpoints where... Yeah, you know, in this situation, with perfect knowledge, that a Pie Fight stops a Shark Trainer next turn, but how much value is that actually? If we look at the rest of Tank's hand, which is now gone... Hold on. What was in Tank's hand? Yeah, because if you look at the rest of Tank's hand, if you actually Pie Fight a mare here, you're not doing anything other than taking them off of the randomly generated card. Like, next turn, with 5 mana, they still just, like... throw down a 3-mana Gnar instead of a 2-mana Gnar, and then, you know, that puts them at... Sorry, hold on. I have to do math real quick. They're going to be at 8 mana, so a 2-mana Gnar means they can Eye of Naga Kaboros plus ping, and a 3-mana Gnar means they can just Eye of Naga Kaboros. But they're probably not pinging on their own turn anyway. All the pings are fast speed. Yeah, like, it's so... Oh. I thought I managed to actually just clear the whole... I thought I found a new erase button. Yeah, there's like no universe where you ever really want to be using your pings on the mares. You need to be saving it for the actual threats. Is the point that I was making. Maybe I did it in too roundabout a way, but we got there. Oh, now I have his hand back. What the hell? Vengevine's in a bit of an awkward spot where it's going to take 2 pies in a fight to try and take this out, but you know your opponent could just, like, pie fight in response. Vengevine's going for it. And it makes sense. Like, Shark Trainer is insane value in a matchup like this. Not only is it a 6/6, and this is why I really like the Shark Trainer. Like, this is so many resources that Vengevine is committing here. Because if you just throw down, like, the Furious Fey Folk, you're still losing so much. And I don't mind just using a ping on the mare. Like, you might as well finish it off at this point, especially because Vengevine hasn't gotten their value yet. And, you know, they also play double mare. They haven't played any of their mare cards yet. They could have also gotten a Shark Trainer. That would then become a huge issue for Tank Buster. But the hands for both players are just a little awkward. That said, I think even though Vengevine had to commit so many resources, Tank has a really bad lack of follow-up. There's just nothing coming down next turn that's threatened. Like, yeah, King's Court... No, King's Court doesn't even come down next turn. We're only on turn 5. I saw a 7-drop get played, and I'm like, surely we're at least on turn 6. No, we're only on turn 5. And this Overwhelm weapon gets to come down onto Tristana from Vengevine, which Tank probably just has to end up using Signpost on, which is, like, fine. Signpost value in this matchup is... You know, obviously it's really big if you can get it onto a pie fight, because similar to Disintegrate things, like, you know, they go to Disintegrate and they play, like, a shitty ping, and you just, like, bounce the Disintegrate. They're in a rough spot. Same with the pie fight, but the pie fight is so mana efficient that I feel like you're probably just going to end up killing, like, good weapons with this more often than not, be it Scout Weapon or Overwhelm Weapon, one of the two. Probably your biggest hits. And it's not like Tank has much else to do with the mana. They can throw down Gnar here. They can heavy metal. If they heavy metal, they're probably not signposting. It's kind of awkward though, because now there's this fearsome weapon on Tristana, and you got to be like, okay, well, you know, I don't have any blockers for that. I got to get one down, but at the same time, like if I use signpost here, then they just get to follow it up with the overwhelm weapon. The overwhelm weapon being revealed really has a fork on the play patterns from tank, and I think you do just kind of have to sack the Gnar here instead of trying to get fancy with your weapon removal. You'll find an opportunity to sequence this stuff out later, or potentially it's not even going to be an issue because you can just like use the King's Court to take out the Tristana. You do still have a group shot, but that's like assuming Gnar lives here, which I don't think is the case. If Vengevine does develop something like the Bandle Commando, though, then tank is free to like use the heavy metal on the Tristana because there's not going to be enough mana to re-equip the overwhelm weapon at that point, the Fisha Whack, and then you have more of an opportunity to take aim at the Tristana later with like group shot plus pokey stick or something along those lines, and you can just like chump it with your 1/1. Blocks here all make sense. Again, like tank's just not getting mare value, so I really like to see him not overvaluing this card. Also, get the weapon off of here. I don't remember what weapon this is. I don't see any keyword on this. Oh, it's the scout weapon. Yeah, the keyword just disappears when it goes into combat for some reason. No block on Tristana is a little awkward, though. I feel like you can't just be eating 11 when there's a revealed Fisha Whack, as well as unrevealed mare cards that can become a big issue for you. Because at this stage, I think you have a good idea that your opponent got like a really heavy hitting mare card. Like tank has great hand information here, right? You see the two pastries, you know there's a mare card still, you see the Fisha Whack. And just with this information, I don't know that you are allowed to just tank a Tristana to the dome. How are you getting around that? Is it like I don't think you can reliably just leave up signpost mana to deal with the Tristana weapon down the road, and you need to keep up a like a fearsome blocker for the time being because signpost is not burst speed. You're not killing the weapon at burst speed, so like you need to have a fearsome blocker on board to take out the Tristana. So the plan here has to be like King's Court, fish fight, group shot. But then you are, you know, sort of like sacrificing your King's Court to the revealed pastry because you have to prize fight the turn this comes down because it's fleeting. I don't know what tank's plan was here. Maybe just was hoping to draw something better off of the eye than like second gunner and group shot. And just didn't work out, you know, like play for the top decks and just kind of get punished is what looks like happened. I'm not in love with these, but I think once this game resolves, because I feel like it's going to happen very soon, probably go back a turn and look at the position tank would have been in had they blocked the Tristana. And like, tank has to prize fight here. Well, it doesn't have to. You do have a Tristana blocker for the time being. But I think tank's dead regardless. Just because of how many impact units there are on the side of Vengevine. Maybe not on this particular attack turn, but almost certainly on like the next one or the one after that. No, I think you might have had to prize fight anyway, just because there's so much impact on the Tristana. I think Tank's like kind of screwed no matter what, but I think his best chance might have been prize fighting the Tristana just to open up the possibility to remove it in combat with the group shot. This is looking pretty dead on the side of Tank. I'm like trying to math this out, but I think prize fights are a two-way street where if Tank wants to prize fight in combat, they are going to take impact damage. 99% sure that's how that works. Okay, I'm actually going to fast forward a little bit because I just want to see the resolution of the stack here. Oopsie. Like, what do you actually lock in here, Tank? Locks in these blocks plus prize fight plus... Okay. Oh, takes it all back? Mats it out, doesn't work. Okay, yeah. I think everyone saw that coming. So the question now is, if you hadn't decided to eat 11 fucking damage, what kind of position would you have been in? So issue number one, sort of, is that, first of all, Gnar goes here, because it's the only fearsome blocker. It's the only one that can do it. Signpost can't save you here. Signpost would take like 2 damage off of it, which is not enough. You still don't want to be taking 9. So that goes there. You probably... I mean... You could mare here. You could still mare here. Force a pastry out of your opponent. You currently have 0 mare value in your hand. And next turn you're on 7 mana after you Eye. And I'm assuming that if Tank blocks the Tristana, they're still going to Eye of Nagakoboros. You're much closer to board parity. Let me see what Tank actually does draw off the Eye. I think it was like Group Shot and something else. Group Shot Gunner. So the position that Tank would have been in, had they full blocked, is... Perilous Pastry, instead of getting used on Gnar, probably gets used on Mare. Otherwise, Tank has a 2-1 Mare. They still have this 2-2 Tentacle. And this is the board for Vengevine still. It's the 2-3 and the 8-5 Tristana. But you're at 15? Because you were at 16. There's only 1 impact on the Tristana. So I think you're at 15. That doesn't make sense. You'd be at 13. You'd only be 8 higher. Yeah, so you'd be at 13. Okay. Let me use my eraser here. You'd be at 13. With a 2-1, a 2-2, let's assume the pastry still goes onto the mare, right? Let's get into the next turn, because that's where things actually start to matter. Grumble Slug top deck. So this is gone. Tank can... We're at 13. Yeah, it's still rough. I wasn't really expecting Tank to pull a win, but things might have looked a little better. Throw down King's Court. Let's assume Vengevine goes for the same line. Runs out the Tenor of Terror. Because I don't think you're just willing to float your Mare pull to try and make Tank use their 1 spell mana on the prize fight they'd have in hand. Because nothing here really looks better than King's Court, in my opinion. Maybe it's Grumble Slug plus Heavy Metal onto the Tristana to get the Fearsome weapon out of the way, and then you can Puzzling Signpost the Overwhelm weapon in combat. But either way, you're only getting down 1 unit, and there's no Pokey Stick because Gnar would have had to have blocked Tristana. Right? So... Tenor comes down. Maybe this gets pushed here. There's no value for this to be found. I don't think this is coming down while prize fight mana is available. If it's the prize fight angle. And if tank opens with Grumble Slug, Vengevine might... It's probably either still throw down Tenor or pass. So if we go the Grumble Slug line, get a 2-3, have to heavy metal this. So Tristana goes to a 6-3 with no fearsome. They run out the Tenor. Still goes to impact 3. There's only one heavy metal, so Vengevine might fish a whack now. And that'll float 3 spell mana. Got 4 mana for the group shot. Next turn, go to attacks for Vengevine. Send in the Tristana. Send in the impact guys. It's like block Tristana, signpost the Fish-a-Whack. Grumble trades onto the 4-1. You still end up taking 2 damage from the Mayor. 3 damage from the impact from Tristana. 2 damage from the impact of each Tenor and base. And 2 damage from the Tenor as well. That's assuming no further development out of Vengevine, but Vengevine did throw down this even into the King's Court, so I have to assume they'd throw that down as well, in which case Tank... Yeah, Tank still has no good follow-up. It's hard to really... The one thing that I am struggling to evaluate is, like... Was that a better line... Still, like, obviously we know that with the way it played out, you're dead either way. But without knowing what you were going to draw off the Eye of Nagakaboros, did you give yourself better chances of survival by blocking the Tristana and playing it all out that way? I hope you guys were able to follow that. I hope that was easy enough to follow. I feel like it was, but also I'm the one that drew it, so obviously I followed along. But let me know if that made sense. But either way, going to game 3. Not going to game 3. Vengevine 2-0s. Yes, Vengevine 2-0s. Next set. Because I can get 2 sets in this video. That was short. Okay, we're moving into set number 2, which is Prodigy. Or I guess this is actually set number 3, because set number 1 was, like, not on stream for some reason. Prodigy versus Vengevine. The decks are a little bit different here. Again, not going to fly them in the pre-show, because you know what these decks look like. But if anything does come up in-game, I will try to shout it out with the deck lists. As far as, like, things that are weird at a glance, we have like a Noxian Tellstone in the list for Prodigy on the Frostbite midrange. We've also got like Combat Cook and Everest and Trapper. Players have gone back to Trapper. Is just like the way things are. There's Aftershock in the Echo Jinx. That's kind of whatever. The Aatrox list looks like an Aatrox list. There's no Blinding Assaults. There's only one catch. This looks more like an Aatrox list that I built. Because I hate those cards. I think they suck. But yeah, outside of that, nothing crazy. So we're going to jump straight into the game. Such a good spot to end on. Look, there's that Tellstone. I didn't even have to mention this. It would have popped up in the mulligan. Same thing with the Trapper. Everything cool and relevant we got to see in the mulligan. Isn't that great? Oh, oops. Let me... left a little smudge on the screen there. First, I was about to check to see if the tape was actually rolling, because we had been paused on that and there wasn't a lot of motion. Okay. Not a great hand from Prodigy, but honestly, like, not a bad one either. On the side of Vengevine, it's actually kind of good. It's actually almost, like, really good, because Petrified Broadwing obviously is, like, immune to Frostbite, and also, like, there's 3 weapons to tutor an Aatrox, so Vengevine's going to scale into the mid-game pretty well. The one awkward part is they currently don't have a second unit to give Challenger to the second Broadwing, which is going to get really awkward if Prodigy does have something like an Elixir of Iron, especially given that they are damaging the one that's going to have Challenger. But with the weapons available to them, I don't think it really matters. Because obviously they've got the +2 here, they've got the +1 here. So, like, LeBlanc on 3 still dies to Spear plus Broadwing, even with an Elixir of Iron. Prodigy's thinking real hard about this. This is 1 damage on the Broadwing, which, like, I think is fair. You're kind of evaluating, you know, why is my opponent willing to do this 1 damage on a challenger that has some important breakpoints on killing my units into things like Brittle Steel? Or not Brittle Steel. Oh, shit. Never mind. There are no Elixir of Iron in Prodigy's list. Just here to help. That does make things more awkward. See? I did it. I called out the relevant thing mid-game. I knew I could do it. I'm curious if... No, like, you just take it. Because the odds that you actually get Challenger onto the second one feel pretty high. But now it's really up to this one to hold it down. And the question also becomes... What... Vengevine. It's kind of awkward, though, because at the moment, your big strength on Vengevine's side is your immunity to Frostbite. And if you throw down the Ranger Knight Defector, yeah, you get Challenger, but you also don't need Challenger at the moment. I would imagine that Vengevine is not going to combat this turn. I would imagine they just want to float Prodigy for all this mana. So, like, yes, this gets to come down. Curious. I don't think Prodigy fires off Bloody Business. Vengevine's actually going to combat, willing to just let the LeBlanc rock should that happen. And I guess it's just going to take out the other 2 units. No, going to hang on to... Well, oh yeah, this one doesn't have Challenger. Duh. But is now just going to make the decision that we saw Prodigy sit on for so long on turn 1 on, like, whether that bird was going to go into combat with that Broadwing. It finally just happens. We get some bird-on-bird violence, the best kind of violence. But now with LeBlanc down, Vengevine's in a bit of an awkward spot, especially as the Frostbites are piling up for Prodigy. There's just, like, no interaction on Vengevine's side. I think if the attack tokens had been on odds for Vengevine, they'd actually be in a pretty good spot, because it would have stunted, like, either stunted LeBlanc development on 3, or Vengevine would have had the option to, like, take out the Trapper. And then, you know, let's say this comes down, Vengevine's actually just able to run out the Ranger Knight Defector on 4, because they don't have to hold up the attack token. I just think this game would be going a lot better for Vengevine if they had the attack tokens on odds. Because now they're in this little awkward spot where, like, they're down one of the Broadwings. There's a lot of Frostbite to deal with. The Ranger Knight Defector. We're 1 equip away from an Aatrox Tutor. And I think that's, like, Vengevine's best way to try to come back into this. The issue is that Bloody Business on top of the Omen Hawk buff onto LeBlanc means that Aatrox is probably not long for this world once he comes down. And because the Flash Freeze and Brittle Steel are so cheap, I don't even think Jural really does anything for Vengevine here. I like the attempt here. This might actually get the Bloody Business. Yeah, this fish fight is, I want to say, easily, like, the best play that Vengevine could make from this position, given everything that I just kind of outlined about, like, the Aatrox getting answered, the Bloody Business, the 6 attack on the LeBlanc all being very unfortunate parts here. So, yeah, absolutely try to take off the 6 attack unit. If this resolves, Vengevine probably goes for the you know, play a weapon, summon the Aatrox. Still has that option available, because they can equip the Bloodletters and then play Aatrox. And I think at this point, Vengevine can't play around second Bloody Business. You just can't do it. You don't have enough units, right? You don't have anything that you can kind of throw out. I don't mind this, because if you do just equip a weapon, you are taking potentially a lethal amount of damage on the open. Or no, you'd have Aatrox down. I think you're dead anyway, Vengevine. I think you just might be dead here. So that's a little awkward. But yeah, I think if the tokens were flipped, Vengevine would have had a much better shot this game. Honestly, I'm a little surprised Prodigy's even blocking. Maybe they think Vengevine's not going to combat for the second time. But I think Vengevine's only shot at victory now is full send. And, okay. Actually, yeah, this is fine. I was going to say, I kind of like full sending and bluffing the For Glory, but honestly, because the first one was blocked, it's not like you're actually threatening lethal here. I assume LeBlanc is blocking so that we get the mirror image. Nope. Just wanted to take the blocker off. I think this is a safe lethal from Vengevine, because I think there's single combat in this list. Let me confirm. Yeah, there's 2 single combat, but if you just full swing and Vengevine goes like block single combat, then you brittle steel, and then if they form up, you just flash freeze. And then they still just die, right? Because they were only at 10. And you know 2 cards in their hand, so they'd have to have, like, form up plus whatever. And I think that you had a pretty good read that they didn't have form up, because if Vengevine had form up, I don't think they would have equipped a weapon to the Badger Bear. I think they would have form up to the Badger Bear, like, as a gotcha moment to try and take this out. Right? Like, get that 1 unit advantage. So I think Prodigy was really safe to go for the open lethal there. Again, like, it's not really punishable because they're going to get the mirror entity, but it was a safe open, I think. Or even if it's not a lethal open, you're actually just getting so many cards out of it, because your opponent's hand would have had to been like double form up single combat for that not to be a lethal open. And then at that point, they just don't have a hand, right? They have like Aatrox and the 2 weapons that you've seen. So feel like that was a safe open. Not that I think there were crazy punishes. Like, Aatrox doesn't really have good developmental punishes, so like it was kind of safe either way, but I just do want to call out safe opens when I see them. All right. I'm not even gonna, yeah, we'll just hop straight into game 2 of this set, and then this will probably be the last one for part 1, because I've gotten kind of long-winded on the explanations, which is part of the reason I did feel the need to genuinely chop this into 2 videos so that I could still take my time with lengthy explanations. RPG 3.0 chip. Oh, that's behind my camera. It popped up. This matchup is supposed to be good for Prodigy. The whole point, like, the big resurgence in Echo Jinx is how well it does into Demacia decks. So with double Demacia left, you have to assume Prodigy's very favored for the remainder of this set. And we're not seeing anything crazy out of Vengevine to contest that. Like, you've got a decent weapon, you've got a cool unit here, but there's so much prediction in the hand of Prodigy on top of, like, double Scrying Sands that you might even run into a situation where Prodigy throws down an unleveled Echo, waits for the fish fight, and then fires off Scrying Sands that will, like, then level the Echo as well as get that free copy of... I guess it won't get a free time trick if you're doing the remove the weapon one, which is probably what Vengevine's going to do. Also, Scrying Sand doesn't work on Petrosite Broadwing, so until that Broadwing is dealt with, that's really not even an option for Prodigy. And I think this Echo kind of just has to get sacrificed to a fish fight to turn on the voices. But once that voices is online, because there's no quick attack weapon from Vengevine, actually just no attack weapon at all, gotta feel like they're in a pretty good spot. Because Vengevine doesn't have a second weapon to cycle through to keep this Broadwing healthy, so they're probably not going to be able to take out voices with it. And I don't think Vengevine can just, like, sit here representing 5-attack Broadwing until Prodigy makes a move. I think one of the biggest ways that players tend to lose to Echo Jinx is they, like, play way too respectfully of it and just give them way too much time. Yeah, that was... I didn't even see the options. It was, like... It was nothing great. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this at this stage. It's all as expected, right? That echoes at 3 out of 4. Vengevine can't fish fight because of Mystic Shot. And I think Prodigy is fine if Vengevine goes for the Mystic Shot, and then I guess it's kind of awkward because if Vengevine fish fights and you Mystic Shot and they have form up, then you're down in Echo. You don't have a leveled champion at your disposal to turn this on. And it could get really awkward. But Vengevine doesn't want to lose to the Mystic Shot because they don't have the form up, which is totally understandable. It's one of those things where, like, you can't bluff it because Prodigy calls the bluff. Like, if you fish fight, Prodigy's gonna fucking Mystic Shot. And then you go, oopsie, I don't have the form up. It's not like, you could have a form up face up in your hand. Prodigy is still firing off the Mystic Shot. Well, actually, in that case, they might do the time trick. If you have a form up face up, they might just time trick instead. But you'd have to have it face up. Blevins was always a big proponent of don't make a bluff your opponent has to call. And now the engine's online. The chrono breaks are in the deck. The voices is in the hand. Vengevine's pretty limited on removal options into this double Mystic Shot. And with no quick attack weapon, really can't try to take the board back here or even try to race the life total. It's looking really, really snowbally for Prodigy at the moment. And Prodigy's probably just going to like sit on the pass button with this double Mystic Shot represented until the next turn. They don't really need to get one of these down. Especially if Vengevine is making like non-committal plays like Fleet Feather Tracker. So Vengevine's not even necessarily safe to attack with the Ranger Knight because of Scrying Sands. It's like, it's almost safe, right? Because if you go in with this and Echo blocks and you get Scrying Sands, Echo's actually down to 1 health, and then you can probably send in the Petricite Broadwing, but you are then giving your opponent 2 free predict draws to take out the Echo, as well as taking 2 units off your board. Like, I don't think, even if that works out for Vengevine, I don't think that's a winning line. And now we're going to see that Mystic Shot play that I talked about earlier, and honestly, it might just be a concede from Vengevine at that point. And I don't mind this, right? Like, obviously, you could have just, like, played Vayne instead and then went for the challenge here, or you could have even just straight up gone for the challenge here. Like, you just straight up go to combat, you full send, and you challenge Echo with the Petricite, right? Like, that was an option. But then the Mystic Shot still happens. Your opponent gets the free draw, the Echo's still alive. You don't have the mana to... Well, I guess you could have, like, replayed Spear. Was that the line? Hold on. Was that the line? Did we find the line? Was it... From this position... No, hold up. From this position, instead of fish fighting, you full send. You go challenge here, send this in, send this in. You probably hold this back. There's not a lot of reason to send this in, because it'll just trade on this, right? Not a lot of reason to do that. But what happens then is they have to Mystic Shot. This goes down to an 0-1. I don't think Prodigy's double Mystic Shotting it, so you let that go, right? They get their free draw. And then post-combat, you spear the Ranger Knight, and then you fish fight the Echo. And that's how you play around Mystic Shot and Scrying Sands, because Echo will be a 5-2 then, because... Oh, I made that a little... I used a highlighter instead of marker. So Echo will be a 5-2, so even the Scrying Sands doesn't save it. Obviously, like, Quicksand is still going to be a consideration, but that is, I think, with perfect information, the line that Vengevine would have had to have taken to get back into this game. But, you know, it does also come down to what was the draw from Prodigy off of the Chrono Break at that point. And it's important to note that Prodigy would not have had to commit the Scrying Sands. You are just playing around Scrying Sands by doing this. So they would still have 3 mana. So if they drew Chrono Break, they could ship the Chrono Break. And I think at that point, Vengevine would be tapped out with 2 cards in hand. And that's a pretty safe Chrono Break to revive your Echo. So just kind of wanted to point all of that out. Instead now, we are going... So this way, you know, the Petricite survives, you re-equip the weapon, second Mystic Shot is going to... We're not even going at the Echo. You have to go at Echo here. You have to attempt it, right? Or are you worried about a Chrono Break? I don't think you can give Echo that much respect. Because now your opponent just gets a free attack with Echo. They still have whatever tool you were worried about them having at their disposal. I don't think that was a good line from Vengevine. You did not put yourself in any closer to a winning position by doing that. I think you had to just, like, send the Petricite first, see if it works out. Like, I don't think you can really afford to pre-commit Fish Fight like that. And then I think you do just kind of have to send it at Echo again. Like, yeah, you do end up losing to the Mystic Shot, but I think you also lose by not attempting to kill the Echo. Now you're taking damage to the fucking dome. But again, I don't think, like, it actually has an impact on this game. Just given that Prodigy, like, had the double Mystic Shot and the Scrying Sands. It was just, like, way too much protection for this Echo, given the narrow range of Vengevine's hand, third Mystic Shot potential. I don't think third Mystic Shot really matters here. I think you're really just looking for that Chrono Break at this point. But you do get to draw here, and you're probably playing the Clockling landmark after this. Or just take the... I don't know if that was a take on the Chronomancer or a skip in a Chronomancer. Still not finding the Chrono Break, though. Okay. Not a bad top deck from Vengevine. It's going to get Aatrox. And throwing that onto the Petricite Broadwing does give it the option to kill Echo through Mystic Shot. Or re-equip Spear to try to take out the Voices, but that doesn't work through Mystic Shot. And Vengevine, I have to assume, is playing around second Mystic. I don't think you let the Echo live and don't send Petricite into it if you are playing around Chrono Break. But it's so awkward that Aegis isn't 1-1 anymore. Yeah, like, Vengevine, what are you supposed to do here, bud? Are you... Yeah, this is what I was always talking about with players playing too respectfully of the Echo Jinx and the potential of the Chrono Break. Because if Prodigy had Chrono Break, you would probably lose, right? I don't think it's a card... Like, I think players think they can play around it when they really can't. Because if that had succeeded, if you had just killed the Voices, right, and you didn't trade off too much of the board, Prodigy just still fucking Chrono Breaks and hits you with Echo, and your ever-dwindling board continues to dwindle, and you don't have the interaction in hand to deal with that. Like, if things had gone according to plan for Vengevine, right, you actually just kill the Voices and nothing else because you are afraid of the revive and rally. Prodigy just still plays the rally, and you still just fucking lose. It's so weird to try to like evaluate a matchup like that and be like, oh yeah, how do you win? You just disrespect the shit out of them. Because when they have the answers, then it looks like awful plays, right? It's like, obviously you lose to Chrono Break here. My point is, as a Demacia deck like this, especially given the lack of interaction in Vengevine's hand, you just can't play around Chrono Break. That's not something you can do. And now you have Condemn, but you're actually still losing to double Mystic Shot on the Zolani if Vengevine wants to, or if Prodigy rather wants to like try and hard force this Echo through. Then you're forced to Condemn pre-combat, or sorry, in combat, pre-Chrono Break I meant, and then like Chrono Break just still comes out. And at this point, it's like very obvious that Prodigy has Chrono Break. They're not attacking with the voices if they don't. But what are you gonna do? What are you supposed to do as Vengevine? I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because I think we all know where this is going. So Prodigy didn't end up using it. Doesn't actually even have a real opportunity to get punished here unless Vengevine reads the double Mystic Shot and spears Vayne. Because at the moment, Prodigy can bring back Echo, and then when Vengevine goes to condemn it, and I think Vengevine is not going to block it. I think they have to like block two other things, and then actually they probably have to block Echo and then condemn voices, and then both of these units are dying to double Mystic Shot. So, ooh, that's fine, right? The only things that have died are Echo and voices. This doesn't actually take up a board space that belonged to someone else. I think it was just Echo and voices. Unless this is a Mystic Shot on the Prodigy's own unit to get back one of them. But I think you can probably just Chrono Break as Prodigy. Unless you're not getting voices. I don't know well, actually we'll find out. Whatever the third unit is what would have not been gotten. But you actually only need to push 3 damage here to finish off your opponent with double Mystic Shot. And I think Prodigy's concern is that that's probably unlikely. Your opponent, your biggest fear is Aatrox plus 2 3-mana strike spell, be it single combat or second Aatrox. I don't know if this, I mean, we'll find out in a second if this was necessary. So whatever this third unit is. So it was voices. Had to Mystic Shot to get back the voices. That's like a pretty reasonable fear on Prodigy's end in terms of getting blown out by Aatrox strike spell. Second Chrono Break. Wait, like third Chrono Break? Didn't even need it. They still have a Chrono Break here? Oh my god, never mind. It was all over. None of this matters. Yeah, that was a pretty obvious end result, right? I don't think anyone ever had any delusions that Vengevine was like in an advantageous position. And like Vengevine, Prodigy can just let this go and then Mystic Shot or rally again. It's up to Prodigy, but either way, I'm like vaguely curious on which spell Prodigy wants to cast. Okay, they did Mystic Shot. Ugh. Anyway, that's it for part 1. Tomorrow we'll have part 2, which is the last, I don't know if it's going to be 2 or 3 more matches, but however many matches are left, we'll be in part 2 tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to the release of Eternal Ladder and making content around that week, because obviously being a tournament-focused channel, I am going to switch gears to Eternal. Tournament Tactician this weekend will be for the Eternal tournament format, and I'll be going live Thursday, 6 p.m. on twitch.tv/casterboulevard to talk about the tournament tier list for the Eternal format. So whatever hot takes you have, or like whatever deck is like tearing up ladder for you that first day, come let me know then and there, and we can talk about it and try to get it on the tier list and give everybody a good idea of what week 1 Eternal tournament formats look like. We're going to get it horrendously wrong, and I can't wait for all of you to share in that with me.